call the Personnel and Higher Education Committee meeting to order. And with that, I would like someone to make a motion to approve the minutes of last month's meeting. Supervisor McDevitt makes a motion, seconded by Supervisor Molino. Any additions or corrections to the minutes? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried. Do we have someone here from SUNY to provide an update? Oh, good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Dr. Duffy couldn't be here today. She sends her apologies, and she sent me instead. Good morning.
Well, we're happy to have you.
Around. I'll be quick and brief, but really at this point in time, we're here just to let you know that it's advocacy season for community colleges in New York State. The governor's budget did come out. The executive budget, if it stays as is, would result in a 2% cut to funding to community colleges across New York State. 27 out of 30 actually would have a reduced budget. For SUNY Adirondack, that would equate to about $300,000 in state aid. This is not uncommon for the governor's original budget. He usually waits for other people to do something with it. But as part of SUNY Adirondack's advocacy efforts in those of all 30 community colleges, we are advocating again this year to change the funding formula for community colleges in New York State. Really, we're looking to stabilize our funding and create some sort of sustainable and predictable model for us that we can use to be able to budget for more than 1 year at a time. What we are asking for is an annual floor, much like the CUNY colleges receive, the K through 12 schools receive, and then a small increase in the per FTE amount that we receive, just to allow us to adjust to fluctuations in enrollment. So just as some information for you, the state does fund us on an FTE basis. That used to be relevant. At this point, it is very outdated. An FTE is essentially a full-time equivalent, which used to mean 1 student. That's not really accurate today. It could be 4 or 5 students that makes up an FTE. The majority of our students are part-time. They each need a parking space. They each need to meet with an advisor. They likely need a counselor. They each probably need tutoring, all of those types of services. So we would interact with more than 1 student, but we're only being funded to interact with 1. And that's really what is causing that desire for us to advocate for a change in the funding formula. We do have a letter writing campaign. We shared a draft of that letter with the secretary to the Board of Supervisors, so it is available if you would like it. And what I passed out is our advocacy flyer, and we have many of these available too. So I think historically, you have passed a resolution to support the college's advocacy efforts. We appreciate that as well, but we think that the letter writing campaigns really do help also. Does anyone have any questions?
Any questions from the committee? Any questions from the audience? Supervisor Leggett.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. You think a resolution from the board would also be helpful?
Guess it can't hurt, do you think? What's the feeling of the committee?
Speak as a unified voice from the county, the letter writing. SUNY would have no objections to that.
And we also, I think, recommend that you consider working with your county association. It has become very involved just over the last 12 months, and so I think that might be a good avenue for you as well.
Make that resolution.
I can say that at NISAC earlier this week on the budget review, they did talk about how low the funding, the FTE funding is.
Yes.
For the colleges.
All right, so, Mr. Loeb, you'd like to make that motion?
No, I was asking Craig.
Oh,
He mentioned
No,
it.
I mentioned it. Yeah, I'll make that motion.
All right, Supervisor Leggett will make the motion, second to the motion by Supervisor Loeb. Any more discussion?
I do think that that's important because we don't know what's going to happen this year with the budget and the whole makeup of Albany this year.
True.
So we don't.
All right. Any other discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you,
very
Karen.
much. Okay, next, request to be discussed by the Human Resources Director, a review of the report on tracking of vacancies filled. Jackie?
I included the attachment if anyone has any questions on the vacancies. I'm happy to answer them.
Any questions?
This is health services.
That's,
You charge just mostly health services.
So far this year.
Yeah. Wow. Sorry,
It is. That's a lot, I think, changes that happened through their budget process.
I was going to say, in the budget process, she came forward and there were like 9 positions that she wanted to change or include, so she, as soon as the new year started, then she put that plan in motion to start filling those positions. So yes, that's why it was mostly from health services. All right, thank you. Okay, Jackie?
The next item is the request to update and amend the Warren County time clock policy, time and attendance system procedure. We worked with the county administrator's office to make a couple of changes to the language in the policy to clarify that it's FLSA exempt, not civil service exempt. So I inserted FLSA about 7 or 8 times in there. And also, with the agreement of the treasurer's office, thought it would be best to keep the actual list of exempt positions separate as a working document, since it changes several times a year, then we wouldn't have to amend the resolution every time we create a new position. So those are the changes for that policy.
All right, does anyone have any questions about that? Supervisor Bramer?
I know that there have been some concerns about the exempt employees not clocking out when they leave for the day, or when they leave for a large period of time, and I don't see that in here. Maybe that wasn't something that was raised to your attention. But that would be something that I would like to see in this amended policy. And one of the concerns was, you know, if we have them, they're just punching in 1 time a day, yeah, they're not hourly, but let's say there's some emergency issue and they've left but no one really knows. We don't know who's, if they punch out, then we know who's in the building and who's not in the building. It doesn't go towards their salary because that doesn't do anything for them, punching in or out, but it would allow us to know when people are in the building or when they're not in the building.
So you're suggesting just punch out anytime you're out of the building, or
I thought you said at the end of the day, Ms. Bramer.
Well, if they're leaving at the end of the day, yes, but let's say they've left at 2 for the day. They should punch out.
Well, I'm not going to disagree with you on that. Supervisor Simpson?
I just have a question. Does our timekeeping system allow for somebody to go in and do a survey and find out who hasn't punched out to be able to be practical to even employ this? I mean, I don't know if that's...
I thought it did, but if I'm wrong, that would be a
But
problem.
I mean, how do you... I just don't know. I'm unfamiliar with the mechanics of it.
Have to talk to, I guess, my payroll department, call them and see if that person is there, because otherwise, they can check and see if somebody is punched out. Other than that, I don't know offhand. That doesn't mean that it doesn't exist, but I don't know offhand if it can.
and I don't know that we could, like in an emergency situation, I don't know that we have it, something happened at this building, say, who are the people at this building who haven't punched out, and
I don't, it's not set up that way. I'm not saying that it can't be, but we don't have that capability right now.
One more follow-up. I just...
All right, go ahead.
Also, I'm thinking that you would have to have a procedure that would identify that person that's going to be contacted to employ something like that. So it's a whole emergency action plan, basically, to do that.
I'm going to let our administrator speak to that for a minute.
I could theoretically, if we had a fire drill or whatever and we're all outside a building emergency, I could grab my laptop, and as long as I have an internet connection, I could plug it in out there and start going through timesheets and seeing, punch status of individual employees. It's possible, as long as I can get online and log into it. But usually what I'm doing when I'm out there is we have a system where employees are supposed to go to a designated checkpoint, and we account for employees being there or not being there through that process. We use walkie-talkies if there's an employee that we know should be in the building that we know has not left for their lunch break, for instance, and that employee is not at the checkpoint. We will call around to see if anyone else has that employee. So that is the procedure we currently use.
Yes.
What you just described, wouldn't it be easier to just call them on a cell phone?
We have done that.
If you're looking for a specific person, I would think that would almost be easier and quicker.
There was one instance where I was missing. I was on the phone with Supervisor Beatty with the door closed and didn't know there was an alarm. And they called my cell phone.
I'd like to just ask the question, is this a real big issue as far as checking? I mean, apparently somebody brought it to your attention, so I guess my concern is for this committee is if it's a big issue, then maybe we should know that, and maybe we do need to do something. Jackie, in your opinion, do you look at it as being a big issue?
I wasn't aware of it being an issue
Oh.
until this morning, so to me, no, but this is to someone else perhaps.
Okay, all right. Supervisor Driscoll?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This sounds to me like an issue relative to normal business hours. There are a number of employees who are coming in to finish reports and business after traditional business hours, including weekends in some departments. Is the expectation that they're going to be basically clocking in and out also? I mean, I just wonder how often. I may be the only supervisor in my other job who punches the time clock, and it's a nightmare some days for me because I'm punching in, out, just going to a meeting, punching in, out, and there may be 5 or 6, 7 punching in and out on my time clock at work. It's it could be a nightmare if you're looking at that as an administrator. I guess I just wonder, what the expectation is for that. We looking at, or just concerned about normal business hours or other times?
This is fundamentally a question. It's the board's discretion. It's however you want your managers to account for their time. It's an administrative preference. You have the ability to say they don't have to punch at all, or they have to punch every single time they're in and out of the building, or anything in between. It's entirely your discretion, the details of this.
So up until now, what has been the procedure? I guess I'll go back to Jackie then. What has been the procedure up to now as far as the punching in, punching out?
The procedure, as outlined in the policy, is the FLSA exempt employees punch once a day to mark your attendance, and any day that you're not here, you have personal day, vacation, sick, etc., marked on your timesheet.
Supervisor Bramer?
No, more specifically to the accountability of time that Mr. Moore brought up. How are we keeping track of people who we allow them to flex time or work evenings and nights and that kind of thing? How do we keep track of that? We don't keep track.
Not for exempt employees. We do for hourly
That's
paid
my
employees.
question, though, exempt employees.
We don't have a
Yeah.
county-wide policy to track that, but it's up to each department head how they want to keep track of that. I have 2 exempt employees in my department, including myself, and we have an Excel sheet where we'll mark off the days that we work more than 7 hours, and we have a running total on the bottom, and that total gets large by the end of the year. But that's how I have confidence that someone, in my office is not shorting the county in any way.
Yeah, exactly. And what are you allowing them to flex over a week or a pay period or a month? How does that work in your department?
With our employees who are required to punch in and out for lunches and such, if they work more than their 8 hours a day, the system will note the amount of time that they worked over. And if we're going to flex for one of those individuals, let's say Christy in my office has to leave a half hour early. If she hasn't built up that half hour over other days where she's worked more, then we can't flex it. So we can only flex from the time that's available.
But theoretically, you're saying that could just keep adding up through the whole entire year.
No, it would be pay period.
Okay.
Pay period is how I would handle it.
Well, that sounds like a reasonable approach, but we don't know if all the departments are doing that. They aren't doing it.
What I'm saying is the county does not have a policy requiring them to do any specific, it's at their discretion.
There is no flex time for exempt employees. I mean, your salary for your position, and you're assumed to be working your 7 or 8 hours, whatever it is, and that's it. There is no, if you work 90 hours in a week, you work 90 hours, you get that paycheck. If you work 20 hours, then you've got a problem because you're not showing up.
Right.
But there is
But
no
we don't
flex
know
time.
if there's a problem because nobody's keeping track, except that person.
Correct. Well, within each department, I think it's...
I was just going to say, don't you think the department heads, I certainly would think if it was my department, I would have a handle on if my employees were here, were not here, working over...
I keep track of all of my exempt employees to make sure that they are working their designated time. But I have a lot of employees that work more than the required hours.
Supervisor Simpson?
I'd like to suggest that we leave this alone. I mean, we have people that are going to do their job, we're paying them a salary. There's a reason why it's salary and not hourly, and we need to just hold them accountable for the job that they're doing and support our department heads.
I
these
agree.
people that are in this position.
No, I agree with you on that.
I understand your concern, but I think,
Couldn't we say...
do you want to change it back to hourly? And, now you have total control.
I know
Supervisor Bramer, then we really need to move on.
Okay, just one last. Couldn't we set a county policy the department heads should be tracking? Or keep their employees accountable?
If they're not already, I would assume they should.
I guess we're making an assumption that they aren't doing this. So how do we know they're not doing it? I guess my question would be, before we're saying we're going to make the policy, then maybe we need to check with each one of those department heads and say, is this how you're dealing with it? I mean, I just can't believe if you have a department and you have 100 people in the department, you don't have any idea or any way of keeping track of whether they're there when they should be or that makes no sense to me. I'm working in an office with 5 people, and let me tell you, I know whether they're there, and I know what time they leave, and I know when they come back. So I just believe that that's what department heads do. That's their job. That's what we're paying them for. I may be wrong, but Supervisor Loeb.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. In paragraph, 2, A2, subpart 2, the last sentence says that biweekly exempt employees have to certify that they're meeting the standard of applicable hours. So they're signing on the dotted line, apparently, every 2 weeks saying this is what I'm doing. So unless we've got serious problems of doing something illegal. I do have a question, though, Madam Chair.
Go ahead.
The changes, this resolution is just for the changes in the policy, everything that's underlined. I don't quite understand the part of the FLSA exempt employees shall be designated by the personnel officer, and then everything under B is crossed off. This seems like a major change.
That's keeping the list of positions separate outside of the resolution, so that as it changes throughout the year, we keep it more as a working document that's shared between the treasurer's office, county attorney's office, and our office, Trish and I, as opposed to having to amend the resolution every time a new position is created or deleted throughout the year.
All right, so people aren't going to come to work tomorrow and say, oh, I'm no longer an exempt employee?
No, I have the list.
Okay, thank you.
Can we end, Supervisor Phil?
I just know if we had a motion and a second.
No, that's what I'm trying to get to, so.
I'll second it.
A second by Supervisor McDevitt. I don't know if I dare ask any more discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? You're opposed?
Changing it? That's what
Oh,
that is,
oh, I-
to change it, right?
No, aren't we doing, to
Automatic.
update and amend the Warren County time clock policy? Which-
It's the changes that are in front of you that are printed,
Okay.
and we
Jackie's
could...
change.
Okay.
Right, Jackie's
If
change.
we want to
not
entertain-
Claudia's.
Not a okay. Just want to make sure, okay. I'm in support of that, I'm sorry.
Or so are you now in favor?
I am. Thank you. Sorry.
Okay, all right, passes. You can tell you I don't usually do this job. All right, Jackie, the next item.
The next item is to update and revise the Warren County Policy Against Discrimination and Harassment, replacing the Warren County Plan and Program on Workplace Harassment. And these changes were mandated changes through the state of New York. The language was drafted by NIMIR, which is what we used as our base, and has been reviewed by myself, the county attorney, and the county administrator's office.
All right, the motion is going to be made by Supervisor Leggett, seconded by Supervisor Logue. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Okay, D, request to amend resolution number 375 of 2018 to include language pertaining to the $100,000 stop-loss deductible for employee health insurance, which was inadvertently omitted, and ratifying the actions of the chairman of the board in regard to signing contract for same.
Move it.
Moved by Supervisor Simpson, seconded by Supervisor Sokol. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. All right, referral from the Economic Growth and Development Committee. Request to reclassify the position of GIS Coordinator, annual salary $74,000, to GIS Administrator, annual salary $79,500. Note, the Economic Growth and Development Committee did not approve this change, but referred same to the Personnel and Higher Education Committee for review and consideration to determine whether the change was appropriate. So, does someone want to bring the motion to the floor, and then we can discuss it? Supervisor Simpson,
I'll second
seconded
it,
by
yeah.
Supervisor McDevitt.
You-
Discussion.
Ryan, did you want to address go ahead.
No, I don't know. I have no idea what's going on.
The comparative salary
Sure,
salaries
sure.
within comparative counties?
Sure. We did ask the planning department to do that survey. Our planning director is here to speak to that if you have any questions, but I will read the results of that survey because he essentially looked through other counties with professionals he is aware of in doing his work who perform similar duties to Sarah. And I'll just read you some of the salaries that he found. Ontario County's person is at $92,000. Ulster County, $81,000, Greene County, $81,000, Dutchess, $85,000, Onondaga, $94,000, Erie, $91,000, Putnam, $90,000, Schenectady, $83,000, and Rockland County, $146,000. That's a good salary.
I have a question. Does Essex County and Washington County have a GIS administrator? I was just be curious to see what their salaries are. I feel like they're more within our area than all these big places south of us, so I'm just curious what the
Right,
salaries are there.
Technically, no, they do not have those equivalent positions.
Okay.
They have a GIS technician, and then they outsource administrative or program development activities through a consultant.
All right. Question, Supervisor
Thank you,
Lowe.
Madam Chair. I'm wondering what the extent of the discussion was on this specific subject during the budget process.
Well, it wasn't, I don't think it was a part of the budget process. Wasn't this something that just came up within the last
This
couple
is
of
an
months?
outgrowth of the budget process. What
Okay.
we did is, we asked to elevate Sarah back to full-time. When Sarah first came on board in the late 90s, she was a GIS administrator. The position, she left, Sherry Norton came in the budget issues of 2008, 2009, that was downgraded to a part-time position. In order to do that, they changed the title to a GIS coordinator. Sarah came back to work for us when Sherry left, and has been a GIS coordinator. We want to move that back up to administrator. And what we had to do was go back and work with Trish and redefine the job description because it was so outdated. It was talk about NT technology and stuff that's long gone. So once we got that updated and approved, now we're back here to try to clean this up. Also, as part of the budget process, what got missed was the Sarah salary for 2018 did not receive an increment. So this partly takes care of that and partly increases her responsibilities. What having Sarah on board does allow for us to do is not to hire consultants to come in and do a lot of work. We have some, I think we have a $5,000 contract for consulting for some very technical stuff, but we also provide services to a number of state agencies through contract and revenue and to local municipalities and AGFTC. So I think this level of expertise requires this position.
Supervisor Bramer.
I think we need to vet this through committee. This is a lot of stuff. This position has been changing recently, and I don't think it should have come to personnel before it got vetted through committee.
It did go to committee.
It did go to
About the
committee.
Just
last
said,
meeting.
it says right on here.
They didn't approve it in committee, but it was discussed in committee.
They moved it up to personnel.
They moved it up to personnel.
I think Supervisor Wild requested that we move it on to personnel, which I agreed to. I'm in support of this. I think it has indeed gone through committee. If Supervisor Wild had not, made that request, it would have been approved in committee. So we, in an effort to play together here and do it the right way. But I just looking at the comparative salaries, I think this is reasonable. Just watching Sarah do her GIS presentation a couple of months ago. Well, we're talking about some pretty sophisticated stuff here. So I view her as a valued employee and probably worth the dollars involved there. But I would argue that it has been vetted in committee.
Yes.
She's been doing a great job. This is not about Sarah.
All right, just a minute.
Madam Chairwoman, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I am here, and I did make a motion to move it. We didn't have the comparative county salaries at the time to decide whether this was a reasonable
I
approach.
still don't have.
Now we do. From what I heard from our administrator, Mr.
Right.
Moore, that we do have some salary figures from other counties with similar positions. So that's what I was looking at, because there were issues about the attorney's office, and there's many issues coming in terms of staff retention, and are we paying reasonable salaries? I don't want to even get into the discussion about living wages. This was part of it to make sure that we're being competitive with other counties, because myself personally, I believe Sarah's done a wonderful job. Some of the things she's done. But I just want to make sure that we're doing the right thing comparatively.
All right. Anyone else? Supervisor Conover?
Yeah, I mean, from the spatial data viewer, which is a remarkable tool that's used not only by those of us in government, but people in the private sector, particularly people, legal community, real estate community. It's just a tremendous thing that we have that not all areas have. And people that are outside the area can look at that and learn a lot about our county. To the more recent recreation trail program, which is just a tremendous add-on to that whole area of expertise. With that, my question to you, Wayne, would be, am I correct that this would be comparable to, say, a senior or associate planner with 6 or 7 years experience, maybe a little more?
I would say it's even higher than that.
Higher than that.
She has 20 years of experience. When she was in the private sector, in between her employment here, she was a billable rate at Saratoga County for $125 an hour. I think when you talk about issues like the spatial data viewer and like the recreation mapper, those are things that go beyond just a GIS coordinator. This is new development of new initiatives, economic development initiatives. and I feel that this is representative. Actually, I'd like to pay her more, but I understand the county's salary structure and ability to pay, but personally, I
This would
think...
actually be above,
Yeah.
even above that grade.
Yeah.
With an enormous amount of experience.
You know, the 911 call center would not function without her services. So.
Supervisor Molino?
I'd like to make the motion to move ahead with this.
I think that
We already we have that, don't we? Yes. All right, any more discussion? We do have the motion and the second, so any further discussion, Supervisor Lowe?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm really concerned, I mentioned the budget before, this is, we have the district attorney who's coming forward to saying, all right, disregard the whole budget process, I want to pay my people more, let's do that. We have this department. This cannot be something that was overlooked. Oh, geez, we forgot to ask for a salary increase for our people. I appreciate all the accolades. Everybody in the county does a great job. We have a great staff that works for the people of Warren County. That's beside the point. This is their job. We have a budget process, and if we start doing this, it's going to blow the budget out of the water. I'm totally against it. Let's stick with the budget process. If it wasn't on the table back in December, I can't imagine that all of a sudden there's an urgency less than 60 days after we approve the budget. Thank you.
Anyone else? Supervisor Leggett?
Thanks, Carolyn. I felt comfortable moving this on personnel for consideration, because in personnel we can take a broad view of things, and how does this fit in alignment with other salaries paid throughout the county. This is, you know, department head salary level stuff here. So it's good to compare how other counties pay a similar position, but how does our county pay in the relative scope of things? And that has not yet been vetted out. And I wouldn't be comfortable with voting in favor of this raise at this time, because we do not have that information in front of us. The 2.5% raise would be $2,850. That yeah, that's for the other counties, though. Yeah, within our positions. You know, so if the base right now is 74,000, you know, a raise at 2.6%. So let's raise it up then to 3,000 is $77,000 raise if we're to keep it in mind from one year to the next. But we were getting into at budget time, you know, discussions about between various department heads and their level of salary, and is that fair, is that equitable, and such, and as well. Acting on this next month with more information.
Supervisor Sokol,
Thank you, Madam
comment.
Chair. You know, and I have to agree with these fine gentlemen over here at the end of the table. You know, I feel for Supervisor Thomas. He constructed this budget. I am in fear of what's going to happen at the end of the year if we do keep bumping salaries, which they probably do deserve them. However, a budget process is a budget process. So I will probably be against this.
Anyone else? So do we want to act on this, or Supervisor Leggett says we should put it off for a month? So what's the feeling of the committee?
I think we ought to act on it.
All right. Anyone else? Yes.
If I may just add, Sarah's the only person that maintains the GIS. So in other words, she's on duty 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. She's been in Montreal, and I've had to call her and she's fixed an issue remotely. She's been on vacation. We've had to contact her. I don't think this is out of line. That's just my personal opinion.
All right. No more discussion?
I kind of like Supervisor Leggett's idea. Would she be acceptable of the 2.6% increase?
I would think so. I mean, what
I
you
think
have to
that's why-
realize, I understand, but what you have to realize is when she went to full-time, she took, what in essence was a $6,000 cut from what she was making, because her hourly rate went down by $3 an hour. So, in essence, if we had just extended forward her current hourly rate as a part-time, she would be making more than this.
I mean, that's, we missed last year's, right?
Yeah. So, yeah. But if that's what it is, that's what it is. I mean, I
She's
think...
salaried though, not hourly.
At that point, she was salaried before we elevated, right?
Just had that discussion though, they're different.
All right, yes, Supervisor Leggett.
Everything that the Director of Planning says is true, and we are looking at a valuable employee. So my resistance to voting on this now is not reflective on qualities and ability to do the work, but the process that this board and these committees take in coming up with fair numbers, because there is ripple effect then. Okay, you know, on this level of work, what does this happen in social services, in district attorneys, in, you know, and, you know, throw it throughout the whole county. I'm just not comfortable without that backup information, having gone through that process to vote on it at this time.
Well, we have a motion on the floor and the second, so I guess we have to move forward to act on that. So at this point, all those in favor?
Aye.
Raise your hand, please, so we know. 1, 2, 3. All those opposed? So I'm assuming didn't pass? All right. So I guess it's something, what do we do, come back and discuss it, or?
Well, if there's, we could come back, but if there's, there was also an idea thrown out to do the 2.6, I don't know if there's an appetite to have a motion and a second on that.
All right, what's the
I'll
feeling?
make it.
Supervisor Simpson will make the motion, seconded by Supervisor Leggett? Yes?
I'm looking at the finance chair there. I'd like him to second.
Either that or we, like we said, like Supervisor Brammer said, we bring it back to committee, but I'm comfortable with 2.6.
Frank, you have any comments on that?
2.6 is fine.
Okay. So Matt made the motion. You're good with that, Supervisor Leggett? All right. All those in favor of the 2.6 increase? All right. All those in favor? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
One question then. A lot of moving parts in this discussion. So I'm going to ask a series of questions, and so that this woman has worked for us, has worked for us, has been working for us. Something changed in 2018 during the budget process, and she was left off the 2.6 salary range.
Yeah, that was my mistake.
Oh,
We did a memo as part of the budget memo, elevating her to full-time. That got acted on before the budget process, but the memo that I had submitted still had the old salary. After the position had been elevated, I did not realize that memo was still going forward as part of the budget process. So her salary from last year stayed static instead of getting the increase. That was an oversight on our part. And I talked to the county administrator about that, and we both kind of say that got missed in the budget process.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Are you good?
I'm good.
Okay.
I'm in support.
Okay. All those in favor of the resolution to increase her salary by this 2.6%? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
No.
You're opposed? And you're opposed, okay.
Can I ask a
But
third?
Pat, yes.
That is also including the title change, correct? You just...
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes. All right, thank you very much. All right, referrals from Health, Human, and Social Services, request to authorize temporary out-of-title pay for senior aide number 2, grade 7, effective retroactive to November 19, 2018, to reflect the increased responsibilities and workload undertaken until the director position is evaluated, posted, and filled. I'd like a motion to bring that to the floor. Supervisor Bramer, seconded by Supervisor Lowe. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Request to temporarily increase the total weekly hours of the part-time senior account clerk grade 7 position from 24 hours to 32 hours per week until the part-time account clerk number 3 position is filled. Motion to bring it to the floor. Supervisor Bramer, seconded by Supervisor McDevitt. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried. Thank you. We'll move on to Health Services. Request to authorize enrollment in job-related course Laura Monroe, Registered Professional Nurse, to enroll in NUR 305 Information Management and Patient Care Technologies at Southern New Hampshire University online. The course begins on January 7th. The cost is $1,137. If the request is approved, she will be due reimbursement of 50% of the course cost upon completion with a grade of C or better. Would someone like to make that motion? Supervisor Loeb, seconded by Supervisor Sokol. Any discussion? Ms. Bramer.
Thank you. On this one and the second one there, which I know is not part of the motion, but I thought that there was some note during committee that one of these people was not an employee, and I emailed the director, Janelle Jones, and she got back to me and said that they are both.
Yeah, they are.
They are both employees, and our HR director confirmed that as well. So I don't know if that's going to be in the minutes of the meeting, but I was opposed to giving the course credit or training opportunity for someone who's not actually an employee, but these both are, so I'm not opposed.
Okay, very good. Thank you. So would someone like to make that motion? I can't remember if we did. Super, we did. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Next one. Request to authorize enrollment in job-related course, I don't know, Nasha Shah, I'm not sure, Public Health Program Coordinator to enroll in Biology 270, Anatomy and Physiology 1 with Laboratory Works. Course begins January 22nd. Cost $1,009.80. Again, if approved, she'll be due reimbursement of 50% of the course cost upon completion as long as she has a grade C or better. All right, someone like to bring that to the floor. Supervisor Loeb, seconded by Supervisor Sokol. Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you. We'll move on to mental health. Request to authorize enrollment in job-related course. Carrie Wright, Program Analyst, to enroll in Introduction to Public Administration at Marist College. Course begins January 19th. Cost is $999.
So moved.
All right. Approval by Supervisor Bramer, seconded by Supervisor McDevitt. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Carried. Office of the Aging. Request to amend the table of organization and salary schedule to reduce the hours of the meal site, cook number 10 at Johnsburg meal site, from 30 to 25 hours per week based on the staffing requirements. Someone like to make that motion. Supervisor Sokol, seconded by Supervisor Bramer. Any discussion? Supervisor Bramer.
This was already hashed out in committee, so
Yes.
I won't go over it, but I do want to make the point that this is one of those issues we have with living wages of our employees. Reducing that to 25 hours does take away that person's benefits and makes their salary very low.
Okay, probably could be a very long discussion.
I know.
Personally, I feel there are a lot of people in Warren County that are not at a tremendous salary level, but what do? They have unions that vote in the salaries that they get. Apparently the people are satisfied with those salaries. And granted, I'd be the first to tell you there are a lot of positions I'm not sure how they do make it, but that's where we're at, I guess, in this day and age. So would someone, all right, do we make the motion on that? Yes. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Referral from Support Services. Request to reclassify the position of Legal Assistant Real Estate annual salary $45,000 to Tax Coordinator annual salary $45,000 effective retroactive to December 26, 2018, as this title is more appropriate. Motion to bring it to the floor. Supervisor Loeb, seconded by Supervisor Molino. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Questions to items to be discussed by the county treasurer. Mike.
Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
Basically, what's happening here is an employee in my office, Deb McLeod, retired as of yesterday with 39 years of experience with the county. An amazing feat in these days. So basically what I'm looking at is I want to bring her back on a part-time basis for the next several months at the $23.70 per hour rate.
She's committed to me through June. With the second part of this and some changing of the salaries, I'll have about $12,000 to play with in my salary budget, so I'm not looking for any money at this point in time to fund this. Hopefully she'll be able to get done before we spend that $12,000. If not, then I'll be back here asking for some money.
All right, would someone like to bring A to the floor then? Supervisor Sokol, second by Supervisor Leggett. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you. And B, to amend the table of organization to create the new position. Would someone like to bring that to the floor? Supervisor Bramer, second by Supervisor Sokol. Any discussion? All those in favor? Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, Jackie.
I just was wondering on the temporary position, is there an hours expectation per week? Just
Yes.
included?
Yes, it'd be 2 days a week, so we're talking 14 hours? 16? Okay, 16.
Okay, we good? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Oh, I'm sorry. Mr. Logue?
Is someone retiring or we're hiring someone? a
What's
new person
happening
as
is,
a-
with this title, the B section, the person that has retired was a principal account clerk / typist, all right? This was the last position in the county that had / typist behind it, because we no longer have typists, obviously, although Debbie did use the typewriter. So what we're doing is we're taking that typist off and just making it a principal account clerk and lowering the grade 1 step. And obviously, a person who's been here for 39 years is at the top of all of the grade increases in the grade. And the person that we're bringing in, who actually is in the office now, and we're pushing her up into that position, is at the bottom of the pay scale.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Carried. Thank you. Thank you for your patience, and Mr. Moore has said that he will check with the department heads to see how they account for their employees checking in, checking out, leaving the building, whatever. So rest assured, we'll know how this gets taken care of. So great. Thank you. All right. Thank you. Oh, motion to adjourn.
So, nice job today.
Okay. Thank
Tough
you.
one today.
Yeah, it was. You're right.
Motion to adjourn.
Second
Second.
motion. Body, oh, okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Now I'll turn it over to Matt.